Private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first reading of bills.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the first reading of the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean Bill 2025.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be read a first time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motion for leave of absence, or replies to questions, notice of motion for adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of Standing Orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42 subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 9, sir, on the paper. In the name of the Honourable Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance.
You doing CAF first. Doing CAF first. Doing CAF. Doing CAF first. Doing CAF. Yes.
Beg your pardon, sir? Order number 8 on the paper, which is now to move the second reading of the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean Bill 2025 in the name of the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance.
Honourable Member for Christchurch, East Central.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to commence this debate on what is a very important intervention to secure the future of Barbados, sir. The House will recall, sir, that in 2014, some 11 years ago, Barbados determined that it will become a shareholder of the then Latin American Development Bank, formerly known as Corporación Andino de Fomento, CAF, which is the common reference to the institution. And at that time, sir, Barbados initiated its first allocation of shares, sir, in the sum of $50 million US, sir, which allowed us to, at that time, access financing of up to $200 million in support from the institution. And Barbadians, since that particular time, sir, would have become even more familiar with the work of CAF. Some 2 years ago, we came to this chamber again, sir, to further acquire additional shares in the bank to the tune of $50 million US, sir, which gave us an additional envelope of borrowings of $200 million US, sir. And so we have been, over these last 11 years, sir, utilizing concessional financing from CAF, sir, to support a range of critical infrastructure projects across the country, sir. Water, sir, has been one of the key areas that CAF has supported the people of Barbados. CAF is also, sir, within that time, we have financed a number of roads across the country as part of being able to build more climate resilient infrastructure in the country, sir, and a range of other matters that CAF certainly has assisted the government with. Now, what is CAF, sir? CAF is genuinely, sir, a bank which is now, it has rebranded itself from what was the original bill, Latin American Development Bank, sir, and it has rebranded to become, sir, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. And within that context, sir, it is important to highlight the membership of CAF, sir. The membership of CAF comprised of almost exclusively, sir, countries from Latin America and the Caribbean, sir. With the exception of Spain and Portugal, sir, the only membership of CAF comes from within Latin America and the Caribbean. And therefore, the bank has developed a very strong and robust balance sheet. It has been responding, sir, to the needs of its member countries, and it will list some of them, sir, just for the benefit of the public, so that we understand that the ethos and the flexibility, and to understand that it is genuinely, sir, a development bank for the hemisphere, but it has placed as part of its development trajectory, sir, to focus on how do we allow small countries like Barbados to be able to access financing just like any other larger country, sir. And therefore, strategically, we are in this process to be able to allow Barbados the fullest access to development finance that it possibly can, especially, sir, especially given what we have seen, read, and heard, sir, with respect to the reforms that are intended to be re-engineered, given the posture, sir, of the new administration in the north, sir. But just to list the members, sir, very quickly. The shareholder base of CAF currently comprises, sir, of the following countries: Peru, Colombia, Argentina, sir, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Bolivia, Panama, Paraguay, Trinidad and Tobago, sir. These are the full members. Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, Uruguay, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, sir, and Honduras. That is the list of the full members with subscribed capital of the bank, sir. And these are the current list. Other shareholders currently include, sir, Spain, Mexico, Barbados, Bahamas, sir, Portugal, Antigua, Grenada, Jamaica, sir, and a number of commercial banks within the Latin American region, sir. And I will make this document, sir, a document in the House just for the record. And so when I speak to the fact that the majority of the membership of CAF is inherently within the hemisphere, the shareholder base, sir, of the institution continues to grow. And what Barbados has determined is critically important, sir, for the long-term trajectory of Barbados is to become, sir, a full member of CAF. And with that, sir, will require us enhancing our investment in the institution, sir, to ensure that all of the benefits which full membership allows each of those member countries to be able to benefit from, that too is available to the people of Barbados, sir. And people not just mean, sir, the government, but private sector entities operating in Barbados, sir, will have full access to all of the benefits, all of the financing that the CAF balance sheet will be able to deliver, sir, for this country moving forward. And so it is important to recognize that as we are here today to repeal the original bill, sir, because the original bill, sir, only spoke to the acquisition to becoming a shareholder at the most basic level, but not necessarily a full member. And therefore, the bill before the Parliament today, sir, is to repeal the original Latin American Development Bank Act of 2014, sir, and to replace it with a new subscription that sees us to, over the course of the next 15 years, sir, settle our subscription with CAF, sir. But once we are able to pass this bill in Parliament today and in the Senate, sir, thereafter, there are a few administrative matters that we will have to complete, sir, on the passing of the bill. We will have to acquire a single series A share, sir, which I will speak to later, which then allows us, Barbados, to be able to access the full benefits that I will outline shortly. But I want to say up front, sir, that Barbados' future hinges not just on how we strategically align ourselves with what is a genuinely homegrown development bank for the region, but the tentacles of the institution reaches far and wide, sir, which is consistent with Barbados' own foreign policy strategy, sir. You will recall, sir, that we have determined that we will expand our diplomatic reach in certainly Latin America, sir. As we know, in Panama, we have the embassy there, sir. We have an embassy in Ghana and Kenya, sir. We have an embassy in Abu Dhabi, sir, and later this year, we will be opening an embassy in India. And therefore, CAF has strategically aligned itself, sir, with a number of the development banks and financing institutions in the South, which, as you will recall, sir, as part of the Bridgetown Initiative, we have been advocating for more concessional financing for countries like Barbados, which is on the front line of the climate crisis. But equally, sir, as we are seeing now with respect to what just happened in Jamaica, the ability to be able to have access to development resources upfront to build resilience, such that we know when the storms arise, sir, that we want to be in a position whereby having built resilience upfront, that the damage should be as minimal as we possibly can make it, sir, such that the recovery efforts can happen as soon as possible thereafter. And so CAF has strategically already aligned itself, sir, with a number of financing institutions to bring more financing opportunities to the region. And by region, I speak to Latin America and the Caribbean, sir. We are a member of this hemisphere. And to the extent that we have seen very clear fault lines, if you like, sir, with respect to what we have advocated and seen some success in the last 7 years under the Bridgetown Initiative in relation to greater access for concessionality, it is important that as leading members of some of these Bretton Woods institutions, sir, seek to roll back some of those reforms that Barbados, in part, have been responsible for unlocking for not just SIDS, but certainly for developing countries, that it is important that we are very strategic with respect to how we are able to continue the finance trajectory. Let me say for the record, sir, during the BERT 2022, Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program 2022, sir, which we have successfully concluded. Barbados received financing from the International Monetary Fund, not just for the extended fund facility, but from the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, sir, which was critical for helping us to finance part of the program that we were able to deliver to Barbadians. Equally, sir, we received financing from the World Bank because of COVID initially, sir. Then because of the climate issues that arose in 2021, sir. And Barbados was able to successfully make a valid case that middle-income countries, which, as you will recall, sir, middle-income countries usually do not get support from the World Bank. But because of our vulnerability, countries like Barbados, sir, countries like Bahamas, we were able to successfully argue that because of our vulnerability, sir, that the World Bank, which is still responsible for its original mandate in ensuring that countries can develop and have access to financing for development, that we were able to get access to what is called IBRD, sir, lending from the World Bank because of the vulnerability that Barbados and countries like Barbados face in the world today. And so when, a few weeks ago, we saw a statement from the United States government indicating that both these institutions, sir, both these institutions should go back effectively, sir, to its core mandate. That means that for us in Barbados, and certainly in the context of the region, given that we were graduated before because of the early investment made in building human capital, we invested heavily, sir, in education, we invested heavily in building strong health systems, sir, developing our people. And so we got some early wins. And because of those early wins, sir, we were graduated from the World Bank. But of course, we always make the case, sir, that development is a journey. And whilst it is okay for larger countries with more girth, more capacity to be able to withstand, sir, a hurricane, they can withstand an earthquake, sir, because people can get evacuated and move elsewhere and things can resume normally. Small countries like us in the region, sir, even though we have been successful based on the macroeconomic indicators, there is still an inherent vulnerability, sir, with respect to our circumstance, because our size admits of certain constraints, and therefore it is critically important to still have access to those concessional windows of opportunities, particularly, sir, when there are crises that not of our making happen, and then comes to confront us having to respond, sir, to the needs of our people in a significant way. And so, with that in mind, sir, it is important for the country to appreciate that whilst we have partners, we are members of various international multilateral development banks, CAF is unique in that it does not have the influence of a situation where, as is the case in most multilateral development banks, you have donors and you have borrowers. And oftentimes, there is a difference in policy, difference in philosophy, difference in views and all of that between the donors, sir, the donor countries, and the borrowers. So you have non-borrowing countries that tend to determine policies and operational matters in relation to the operations of the banks, which often then the borrowing countries have to be almost in a fight every time to be able to access resources from institutions. CAF is not like that, sir, because the list of countries that I just called for you, sir, admits of a financial institution which is owned by its members, almost like a credit union, sir, in effect, for Latin America and the Caribbean. And like a credit union, sir, when you put your monies into a credit union, sir, you own a piece of the action, sir. And therefore, in the same way that we will bring some legislation later, sir, to reflect that within our own domestic space, Barbados now is participating genuinely, sir, in enhancing our ownership of this development bank for Latin America and the Caribbean, sir. And proudly so, because we have a long history of credit union activism in this country, sir. And therefore, becoming a full owner within this institution opens up opportunities for every single Barbadian in this country, sir, every single Barbadian company in this country, sir, and anybody, sir, who may want to set up and do business in Barbados going forward, sir, in addition to anything that the public sector, the government, may wish to borrow. And so we are setting on this path, sir, to enhance our relationship with CAF, because strategically, sir, it is going to be important for us to continue to have access to financing, sir, for a range of public sector projects, for a range of private sector projects, sir, without, sir, the undue influence of people needing to seem to believe, sir, that they can tell us or anybody within the context of the hemisphere what to do. And therefore, it is important that we recognize that we are about to celebrate 59 years of independence. Soon to start the 60th celebration of independence in this country. And whilst we will all put on our blue and yellow and wave our flags and do so proudly, sir, independence also means, sir, that there is an interdependence on other countries to be able to get things done for your people. And therefore, exercising a level of financial maturity, which is part of your independent right as a sovereign nation to do, sir, that this step, sir, today, with respect to upgrading our membership in CAF to become a full member, sir, is part of how we see Barbados being able to finance the next 60 years, the next 100 years, sir, of development, such that young people in this country don't feel that they are constrained by what you see as traditional sources of financing within the context of the commercial banking sector, sir. And therefore, as we roll out a number of other reforms to support the fuller integration of credit unions and other non-traditional sources of financing within the domestic context, Barbados is equally, sir, ensuring that at the macro level, that we broaden the sources and the scope and the scale of financing for our citizens, such that any entity that is Barbadian in nature, sir, will be able to invest not in Barbados, but certainly right across the hemisphere, sir, with less of an issue with respect to access to financing, because we will open up the window, sir, with respect to being able to drive investment. And so it's a short bill, sir, but I want to take your attention, sir, to the first schedule, because there are only 8 clauses, sir, and I don't think the 8 clauses that are in the bill should be cause for any concern, sir. Clause 4, which is the usual thing, says Minister empowered to raise loans for the purpose of the agreement, sir, which is standard language in relation to these matters. Clause 5, the government may, subject to the approval of Parliament by resolution in accordance with such terms, may be agreed between the government and the bank. The usual text, sir, that's there, and the power of the minister to make orders in relation to the bank. The certain privileges and immunities have already been agreed when CAF was established as an organization in Barbados in 2014, and so those remain as the case. Yes, by the last administration. So the agreement between us and in relation to the common capital, sir. So we currently have Series C shares, sir, and we are acquiring more of these shares, but we are acquiring it in the context of how the bank is structured, but we are becoming what is now called a Series A member. So I want to take your attention, sir, to section 1 of the first schedule, sir. And it speaks to the fact that the subscriber, which is us, shall acquire 34,834 registered Series C shares corresponding to the common capital stock of CAF, sir, for a value each of $14,200 of the United States of America. So $14,200 per share. Now, for the global amount, sir, of $494,642,800 of the United States, sir, hereinafter the total price. Now, that is a large sum of money, sir. But I want to indicate, sir, let me just go back briefly to put some context. When we came out of COVID and we did the resolution in this chamber in 2013, sir, and we acquired the additional $50 million US dollars in shares, sir, we paid that $50 million US dollars, sir, over 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025, sir. As a matter of fact, sir, at the end of September of this year, we paid the last 16 million US dollars, sir, approximately, in shares to CAF, which opened up, as I said, sir, the additional $200 million in the loan envelope based on our subscription. And that loan was available to us, sir, from the beginning. But the limiting factor there, sir, was that the Series C membership or subscription was capped at 4 times the amount of shares that you had in the institution. Barbados now transitioning, sir, to a full member allows the country, and I want to reiterate, sir, the country. The country includes the government, the country includes the private sector entities, the country, sir, includes individuals. So whereas before, the subscriptions that we paid only the government, sir, could borrow out of that envelope of 4 times the capital that we invested, sir. With this amount that we are going to pay over 15 years, sir, over 15 years, it means, sir, that government, it means the private sector, sir, which also includes individuals, sir, will be able now to have access of up to 15%, sir, of CAF's balance sheet. 15%. CAF's balance sheet at the end of June, sir, was just roughly 62.9 billion US dollars, sir. So if you do a quick round of mathematics, sir, roughly call it $63 billion, sir. It means that once we conclude this administrative work here, sir, that Barbadians now would have access, Barbadians, all of Barbados, sir, will now have access, sir, to roughly over $9 billion US dollars, sir, $9 billion US dollars, in loan and investment opportunities to help transform Barbados going forward. And therefore, when you look at the difference in scale and scope, Barbadians now will have up to 18 times, sir, 18 times, not 4 in the context of the government and the current arrangement, sir, but 18 times, and that is based on the current size of the balance sheet. As CAF's balance sheet continues to grow, sir, that 15% envelope, as you would appreciate, sir, you know how percentages work. I know that some people may have some difficulty with percentages, but as percentages work, sir, the larger something gets, sir, the absolute size of that percentage changes with respect to the amount that will be available for Barbados to be able to borrow. So for effectively, sir, almost $1 billion in investment over a 15-year period, sir, Barbadians will have immediate access of up to $18 billion, according to the size of the current balance sheet. But nobody is going to borrow $18 billion all in one go, sir. As I know, I will hear some people attempt to suggest that we would. Nobody is going to do that, sir, because Barbados is still and continues to be, sir, on a downward trajectory with respect to our debt to GDP, with respect to the 60% by 2035. But if we want to continue to see the growth in the economy, sir, the growth in the economy, it means that our private sector must have access to more finance that is affordable, sir. And I know, sir, that there may be some in Broad Street that can start to get frightened, sir. More access to finance that is concessional, sir. And this is not intended to be a threat by any stretch of the imagination. But we have determined that with the other reforms that I told you that will come with respect to how we further incorporate credit unions into the inner workings of the economy, sir, that access to financing is going to be absolutely critical if the growth trajectory of Barbados is going to be successful, as we have determined under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program. And so we have negotiated, and normally, sir, subscriptions are paid within a 3 to 8 year period when members become full members of CAF. But Barbados will be the smallest full member of CAF. And because of our advocacy, we have been able to negotiate, sir, settlement of this investment over a 15-year period, but with the full access of the bank's balance sheet, the full access to all of the technical assistance that are afforded to a number of the other larger countries within the hemisphere, and to be able to ensure now that once we can conclude this, that the sensitization with respect to the private sector, sir, will start, because we know that there are a number of projects that are in the pipeline requiring financing as part of the transformation agenda, sir, which the government is going to facilitate the opening of those windows of those financing windows for the private sector, sir, so that as we continue to refine the current investment, not just of government with respect to its public sector investment program, we are seeing a lot of investment within the tourism and other sectors, sir. There are opportunities that will come on stream within healthcare. There are opportunities that will come on stream within the pharmaceutical space, which the government is moving ahead in collaboration with some private entities to be able to unlock, which will see substantive growth, not just in relation to the size of the economy, but in relation to exports, which is key for Barbados being able to sustain itself going forward. And I say this for what it's worth for the Leader of the Opposition. Almost every time the Democratic Labour Party comes to power in this country, sir, Barbados almost inevitably has to make contact with the International Monetary Fund. Not because of anything that might have happened externally, sir, but because of the absolute mismanagement that portends the administration of any Democratic Labour Party administration. And the facts are clear. The facts are clear. Now, whilst I would not want to put any ideas in the honourable member's mind at all, the reality is this access to financing at some point in the future, I don't know when it will possibly happen again, sir, and I knock on all of the wood in this chamber, sir. The reality is this opportunity for financing gives Barbados options, sir. Options. Options should some other administration down the road, sir, totally mismanage the country, that will see us not necessarily having to go to the IMF again. It is possible. But fiscal discipline, sir, irrespective of the fact that you have options, fiscal discipline is important, sir, because if we are going to unlock and transform this economy, then I say to the people of Barbados, you got to make sure that the people that you put in charge of your affairs do not so recklessly mismanage the economy that you end up using resources that otherwise should be deployed, sir. Deployed in creating opportunities for Bajans rather than having to be deployed, sir, to come and save Bajans from themselves, sir. And that is important, sir. It is important because we live in a world now where you can't take anything for granted as you did before. You really cannot. And whilst we may like to believe, sir, that we are witnessing what is a blip, what is a blip? We would like to believe that it's a blip, sir. Some of the, I would only describe it as policy mismatch, sir. Some of what we are witnessing could very well continue for some time. And therefore, Barbados' absolute responsibility in all of this, and certainly government's responsibility in all of this, is to make sure that Barbados, sir, Barbados must always have, sir, options available to it. Must have options, sir. And therefore, what we are doing today, sir, is to give Barbados options with respect to its financial future and our ability, sir, to continue to do right by our people, sir. We have a lot of investment to put with respect to education. We have a lot of investment to put in with respect to healthcare. We have a lot of investment to put in with respect to the administration of justice and a range of areas. We have a lot of investment, sir, within the social sector that needs to be unearthed. And at the end of the day, sir, we are doing this notwithstanding the fact that we are working in parallel to ensure that the gains that we have made under the Bridgetown Initiative, that we can keep those gains, sir, whilst continuing to give Barbados options with respect to how we can live out the promise of independence, sir. Because if you cannot deliver for people, sir, and we have, I can say without any doubt, sir, that in these last 7 years, we have delivered for people in the most extreme set of circumstances. In the most extreme set of, I don't think there's any government with the possible exception of when World War II was raging, sir. The circumstances in which this government had to operate, even though we knew coming in that things were really, really, really bad, sir. We have been able to deliver for people. And that ability to deliver for people, sir, against the backdrop that we had very little by way of investment in anything meaningful in the country prior to us taking over, and the Honourable Member for Christchurch South is all too aware of that, because he was the beneficiary. I say he.
The Honourable Member, not he.
Sorry, the Honourable Member, sorry, the Honourable Member. The Honourable Member, sorry, my apologies, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member was the beneficiary of the fact that the lack of investment, the lack of attentiveness with respect to how the last administration treated to the South Coast sewage plant, sir. For 3 years, the Honourable Member was a beneficiary of that lack of investment by the very institution that he now leads. And therefore, he cannot come and say that this government did not deliver for the people of this country. He can't say so, because then he will be grossly, sir, misleading the House. Grossly. Because every issue that we have been able to face in this country, sir, we've taken a very deliberate approach to being able to determine what the problem is, sir, and try to unlock resources to be able to solve that problem. And not every problem, sir, you can just snap your finger and it appears overnight. And therefore, in the same way that the South Coast plant seemed not capable of being solved for the 3 years that the sewage were running in the streets, this government determined as part of its mission critical agenda, which the Honourable Member is all too familiar, that we were going to solve the problem. And we did. And we have now been able to conclude that second debt swap, which will see that investment with respect to the upgrade of the sewage plant to tertiary, which now becomes an opportunity for Barbados again, sir, because rather than the sewage and the effluent being discharged into the marine environment, the treating of it to tertiary standards, sir, will see us being able to better manage our water, overall water resources. It means the marine environment will be much cleaner than it was before, sir. And therefore, it is that kind of, not just financial engineering, but the unlocking of deliberate investment, sir, to ensure that all of our people, sir, can have access to water at a time when the infrastructure has been stressed. And the infrastructure has been stressed, sir, because of the lack of investment cumulatively over time. And this government has been committing significant resources to being able to advance the delivery of water right across this country, sir. And let me remind this chamber and the country, sir, for the better part of 6 or 7 years, there were large parts of this country in St. Andrew, sir, St. Joseph, St. Thomas, St. John, parts of St. George, sir, that were without water for a long, long, long time. And this government set about the very clear task, some of which was the financing that we unlocked from CAF as well, sir, to be able to help deliver water for people in those northern parishes. Oh, and St. Peter as well, sir. And I say now, sir, to the people in St. Lucie, we're going to get this problem solved too, sir, because unlike the last administration, we are not going to run and hide, sir, and pretend that it ain't happening. The reality is that with the lack of investment cumulatively, sir, across the country, under the last government, sir, it's meant that the stress caused by a lot of our infrastructure. Look at the roads now, sir. Congestion almost every street. Lack of investment. And I say to the people of St. Lucie, we are going to see this through to the end, sir. We're going to see this through to the end because the government has been able to identify resources to get it done. It is up to the operational people now to put those solutions in place. But it is important to appreciate that when we had to decommission, sir, the desal plant, because the salinity in the well, sir, got too high, it meant, sir, we had to redirect water, as we've been having to do with respect to those northern parishes in relation to the desal water that we had to deliver. And therefore, the solutions that will be brought to bear, sir, require financing. And this is part of how we're going to ensure that we can properly, sir, address not just water issues in this country. And there are a range of infrastructure matters that have to be addressed. And that is part of how we are able to ensure that we can respond to people. And whilst there is, sir, disruption with respect and inconvenience with respect to the repairs, it is not as if the government is hiding from the challenge. We have a very clear philosophy, sir. Very clear philosophy. We will face it, sir, and we will fix it. And that requires money, sir. It requires people getting up every day and going to work to make sure that they solve the problems for people. And to the extent that it is taking as long as it is regretted, but the people of this country must know that this government, sir, this government intends to deal with the issues as they arise. And whilst we are addressing these matters, trying to mitigate, sir, as well, any issues that may arise in the future. But it requires, sir, access to financing, because it is not as if the last administration, not just that they didn't have the will to fix it, sir, they really didn't have any money to do anything in the country. Because the debt, sir, the debt was strangling Beijing, sir, such that every time the government came here under the last administration, sir, they were seeking to tax something new to try to service that debt. So they couldn't repair no desalination plant, they couldn't lay no new pipes, sir. They couldn't do anything for the people of this country that was worthwhile, sir. No buses, no trucks, no anything, sir. They didn't have the capacity to do it. And when they ultimately joined CAF in 2014, and you will see, sir, in, I think it was Schedule 3, you will see the original amendment that was signed by the foreign minister at the time with respect to Barbados joining the bank. The truth is, the last government then joined CAF because of the unlocking of opportunities for Beijing, sir. That was not their intent. They joined CAF because it was the easiest way to get access to $200 million, sir. And as soon as they get the money, sir, it had gone. 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 So we are saying to Barbadians here, sir, we are saying to Barbadians, the government is using all of the tools that we have in our toolkit, sir, to be able to address issues that confront this country. All the financial engineering that we are undertaking, sir, relies on us being able to retire as early as possible, sir, expensive debt because of the restructuring, and I see he's making note. Expensive debt because of the restructuring, sir, to unlock opportunities for Beijing. So the expensive debt that he's making note, I just want to know that part of the expensive debt that we unlock is to rebuild, sorry, not to rebuild, to upgrade the South Coast Storage Plant, Mr. Speaker, in Christchurch South, sir. That is part of the financial engineering of government, which will deliver water, sir, for the people of southern Barbados in relation to not just the aquifers, but certainly in relation to the food and nutritional security components in relation to agriculture, so that Barbados becomes more resilient as part of the process. So our work with CAF, our work with the partnerships that CAF will be able to allow us to unlock and leverage is to deliver for Bajans, sir. Is to deliver for Bajans. So whilst he might seem the member might seem to believe that this is some type of financial intrigue, at the end of the day, this is investment, sir, in effectively a credit union for the region. And as part owners of the credit union for the region, sir, as owners of any financial institution, we too will benefit, sir, from any dividends that are paid out by the institution. Our ability, sir, to have access for the private sector, our ability to have access for government, and for strategic as well, sir, strategic as well in all of this. As I hinted at a function last week, once we get the digital platforms in place, sir, it means that Bajans will be able to make investments within the context of the hemisphere, sir, much easier. And therefore, the opportunity to take, so you may not have, sir, the scale to do something in Barbados, but you might be able to partner with somebody in one of these countries, sir, to expand Barbados's reach, our GNP, sir, so that as we are unlocking investment, this is, I don't want to make it clear, sir, this is not investment solely for 166 square miles, sir. If there are people who want to partner with anybody in Latin America, sir, you will be able to access financing, sir, through this financial institution to do business, sir, as Bajans in and across Latin America, sir, such that no opportunity can feel as if you are constrained because you just on 166 square miles, sir. And therefore, we have to rethink as individuals, as private companies, as government agencies and regulators, sir, how we are going to engage across the Caribbean, because if we are genuinely talking about sustainability, sir, we have to think of how do we grow, sir, grow the pie. And growing the pie, you cannot be constrained with just what happens in 166 square miles. And therefore, it is important, sir, to recognize that this investment that we are making in this institution over the next 15 years will redound to the long-term transformation of Barbados. And therefore, I am confident, sir, that as we set about this particular part of our journey in the relationship with CAF, sir, that the government, being a good steward over these last 7 years, sir, with respect to the turnaround of not just the economy, sir, but how people feel about Barbados and the possibilities, sir, the possibilities about Barbados is important. And therefore, we will engage very aggressively, sir, with CAF, the Ministry of Finance, with CAF, in engaging all of the relevant stakeholders who are interested. Because they can't help if you're not interested, sir. If you're interested in either building and growing your enterprise, but not just building your enterprise in Barbados, but being able to partner outside of Barbados, because that's really where growth is going to come from. Getting your products to market, strategically aligning yourself with other growth opportunities within Latin America to ensure that when we talk about South-South cooperation, that is actually a lived experience for Bajans. But more on the financial side, sir, that the opportunities for Bajans as well to make investment in across Latin America and the rest of the Caribbean is going to be vitally important as part of this opportunity. This opportunity, sir. And therefore, we believe that this is in the long-term interest of Barbados as we seek to ensure that our ability to meet and continue to meet our very clear public policy objectives, that we will continue to enhance and finance education transformation in this country, that we will be able to link our young people, if they so desire, with opportunities not just in Barbados, sir, but opportunities right across Latin America. And as we open up relationships through CAF with other entities in the Middle East, in Africa, and in Asia, sir, that Barbadians would understand that there's really no constraint. Because in the past, some people believe that Barbados is too small. And yes, once Barbados is small, it's beautiful. But at the end of the day, we now must ensure that we connect with other strategic thinkers in allowing our people to realize that you can realize your dreams, but it requires very deliberate action to be able to deliver on those dreams. And so, Mr. Speaker, we will be, over the next 15 years, paying down piece by piece by piece by piece the subscription. Just as we do, sir, when, as you know, sir, when the vendors will come to our homes on a Saturday morning, sir, and you got the card, sir, you know, you got the little card, and you put down a $2 this Saturday, next Saturday you put down 3, sir, the next Saturday to come you put down 5, sir, whatever you had, you put down. We have created a structure, sir, that allows us, sir, to pay our subscription, that does not constrain our ability, sir, to invest in the hospital. It does not constrain our ability, sir, to invest in upgrading our school infrastructure, sir. It does not constrain our ability, sir, to build roads in this country, sir. It does not constrain our ability, sir, to address any of the critical things in this country, because we've been able, sir, having gone through these last 7 years, open up a window of opportunity now where, having turned the economy around, sir, that we now can make decisive and deliberate decisions in relation to how we believe the country is going to be well served going forward. And therefore, this, sir, this debate could not have been possible at any time in the last 5, 6 years. Impossible. Simply because we did not have the space, the scope, the economy was not as robust as it is now. And I say to Barbadians, let us continue to ensure that the quarters of growth will continue, but they will only continue, sir. They will only continue if we are able to identify strategically, sir, where we can get the money from to deliver on that. So therefore, whether you are a small vendor, whether you're a medium-sized business, whether you're a large conglomerate that wants to do business, you will see on the front page of today's paper, sir. I'm sure if you saw it on the front page of today's paper, one of our standard bearers, sir, for furniture in this country was just sold. And therefore, business is being conducted, and therefore I want to see, sir, Bajan companies acquiring other companies, sir, not just in the Caribbean, but in Latin America. I want to see our credit unions backing and innovating, sir, to ensure that Bajan companies, too, are acquiring companies and businesses and expanding outside of Barbados, sir. But that type of merger and acquisition only takes place, sir, where your business climate is certainly conducive to doing that, but that you have access, sir, to the financing to be able to acquire and to do that type of business. So rather than Barbadians complaining about how much the trainees own in Barbados and how much the next, the third, sir, I want to see over these next 15 years, moving forward, that there are newspaper articles saying that Barbadian companies, sir, are acquiring businesses outside of Barbados in the Caribbean, within Latin America, sir, strategically, and therefore then it means that our young people will not believe, sir, that the only thing that happens is people from the outside coming in to purchase companies in Barbados. And therefore this, in my view, sir, is an investment in the future of this country. And therefore, how we conduct ourselves as government, how we conduct ourselves as the private sector in this country, working collaboratively, because you got to spend some money, sir, in order to make some money. You have to spend some money to make some money. And this, sir, I believe, is critical for Barbados to be able to achieve the transformation that we have set out for our people. And so the schedule is clear, sir. At the end of this, we have, as I said, sir, earlier, just very quickly, we will acquire a single Series A share, sir, of 1.2 million US dollars. All right? We'll exchange some of our existing Series C shares, which is in the amount of 36 million, because we already have 100 million in callable shares there, sir. This is just part of the administrative things that will be done over the coming weeks in order for us then to be able to settle on the first disbursement by the end of November, and then thereafter, those payments which then will increase, because we have some options, sir. We can either pay, we could either, just for the benefit of the member for Christchurch South, we could have paid it in equal installments as we did the previous subscription, but we chose to have an increasing amount where it is less at the beginning and more at the end, such that we can program appropriately with respect to ensuring that as the debt trajectory comes down, the economy is going up, that the affordability of the investment, sir, the affordability of the investment makes sense for the long-term future of the country. And so when he looks in the thing and realizes that the money is changing every year, there's no surprise that the money is changing every year. This is a deliberate intervention to make sure that, as I said, that we are weighing the fact that with the debt trajectory coming down, that we needed to make sure we give ourselves enough space at the beginning in order to ensure that the growth and development of this country, sir, is assured. And so every year on the, well, not on, but by the 30th of September of every year, the other installments will be made as set out with respect to the schedule. And so I promise not to be long, sir, but just a few other things here on the bill itself. As I said, sir, simple, straightforward act that will repeal the original, that will repeal the original bill. And this is really how we believe that we will be able to work with more certainty in a world that is clearly becoming a lot more uncertain. And therefore, any responsible parent, sir, managing their household, will look to see what arrangements they can put in place to make sure that their families' well-being can be managed financially. The government has taken this strategic decision to become a full member of this regional credit union, as I described them, to take, in a sense, sir, try to shape our own destiny by being able to assure that we have some measure of certainty and stability with respect to the financing of this country's future. And with those very few words, sir, I will beg to move, sir, that this bill be read a second time.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South.
I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker. As always, I do confess that I enjoy listening to the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, and I do so particularly when he speaks as a technocrat. Unfortunately, for the duration of his speech, there's a point at which he abandons technocracy and adopts a political posture. But I do confess to him and to you, sir, that I do enjoy his academic excursions. And I repeat, until those excursions divert into political indulgences. Now, Your Honor, we are here today to, well, when I say we, the government, not me. The government is here today to, I think, amend legislation which was passed, according to the Honourable Member, by a previous administration, and that is to say around 2014, 2015. And the Honourable Member would want to say to Barbadians, beg pardon? Yes. The Honourable Member would want to say to Barbadians that they are modernizing the legislation. If that is so, I think they are modernizing it because, as the Honourable Member said more than once, the shareholding is being upgraded from that of C to A, so that is a modernization. It may even be an improvement as to the status of membership. But the Honourable Member must have encountered a dilemma when he attempts to criticize the last administration. It is the last administration that created the platform for what is done today. And so there must be something of a dilemma if you are building on that platform while at the same time trying to tear that platform down in the speech. I don't know how it is going to be done. I don't think it was done successfully, but that is the nature of debate in this place. Sometimes we speak as technocrats, sometimes we speak as politicians, and I do confess that I enjoy the technocratic portion of the speech. Now, I characterize what has been said today as a celebration of borrowing. This government, through the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, has come here today to largely say to the public, look, we can now go on a borrowing spree. And he gave the figure, the Honourable Member gave the figure. I don't want to misquote the Honourable Member, but he said we can now go and borrow up to 18 billion all at one go. I took very good notes. The Honourable Member is quite observant. Much of the speech was made for me since his colleagues hardly listened. There were several spirited discussions going on elsewhere, and I'm grateful that he found in me a good audience. And being a good audience, I wrote much of what he said because I'm interested, on behalf of the people of Barbados, I'm interested in what is being done here, what is being said here. And this country was told that this government now has access, when it invests in further shares to upgrade from C to A, we can now go on a borrowing spree of up to $18 billion. But of course, the Honourable Member was sober, and he said, well, we're not going to take the full 18 billion that is available to us. We intend to take only as much as will improve the road infrastructure, the water infrastructure, and education. And the public therefore begins to wonder, well, what was happening over the last 7 years? Because the record must now reflect that apart from this spree that is intended, apart from what I call a borrowing threat that is intended, this government has borrowed within this calendar year, I think, and I can be corrected, I'm not always right, and I have the right to be wrong, I always say that, but Is it on record that this government has borrowed in excess of $1 billion this year? Is it? And if it is so, what has happened to that money? I heard the honorable member ask, what happened to the $200 million borrowed by a previous administration? I, in response, asked, what has happened to the large sums of money that have been borrowed this year alone? I know the record is there that supports the assertion that over $120 million were borrowed to construct a hospital in St. Lucie. The public now knows, we've said this more than once, and we're going to repeat it to the pain of the government, that what ought to have been the hospital in St. Lucie is now a hostel accommodating foreign labor in Barbados. So there goes the hospital. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, because this government needs to be reminded, not only this government, but the people of this country need to be reminded of the misdeeds of this government. And we will continue to ask questions about the Comey loan, $25 million that were borrowed from a bank. We've talked about that bank in here often enough. I'm not going to mention the name today. But what has happened to that money? $25 million, what has happened to it? Well, I suppose to borrow $25 million is far less than to pay $27 million to White Oak. So when the people of Barbados come to match numbers, they will discover that we paid a company $27 million to do a job that good economists like the honorable member who just spoke, he could have done that work for free. So we paid $27 million to a company called White Oak and borrowed $25 million for cricket development. And you only need to look at the state of West Indies cricket and understand that the question can now validly be asked as to where has that money gone? So while the member is asking where the $200 million went, please, there's something called moral authority, and this government cannot ask that question with any moral authority. That too much money has been borrowed in this calendar year and the past calendar years since 2018, and there has been no proper account given for that money. And we are told today that we are borrowing money for road, water, and education infrastructure, and the public will look on at all three sectors, roads, water, and education, and understand that the three of them are in states of disaster. The honorable member comes here today as if this government is now beginning to govern. What has happened over the last 7 years, government? What has happened? So that this is no renaissance. Today is no new birth of a government that has failed over the last 7 years. Today is just a continuation of this government's rampage, this government's borrowing rampage. The honorable member began, and I quote, I wrote the quote, "It is an important intervention to secure the future of Barbados. What has happened to the last 7 years of Barbados?" Fine, the government wants to secure Barbados' future by this legislation today. The people of Barbados are today asking the question, what has happened to the last 7 years? What has happened to the billions of dollars borrowed over the last 7 years? But of course, in a moment of candor, the honorable member said something which rather surprised me. He said, when the next government, don't want to misquote him, but he says that this government is giving Barbados options, and that when the next government comes into office, that next government will have options. Maybe that is Freudian. Maybe the honorable member's subconscious speaks as to an expectation that with this government's failures, there will shortly be present in this country a new government. And we are all grateful to Freud, and we are grateful to the honorable member. He said, we are giving Barbados options. I'm quoting the honorable member. The honorable member stood there a few minutes ago and said that it may be of interest to the honorable member for Christchurch South to understand that a new government will have options. In other words, that a new government does not have to go to the IMF. A new government can go to this bank. That is what I heard. That is what I recorded, and we are grateful. We are grateful to Sigmund Freud, and we are grateful for the influence that Sigmund Freud has on the honorable member's speech this morning. And we thank him. We thank him for expanding the options that a new government will have in relation to the IMF, that we no longer will have to go to the IMF, that we can borrow now up to $18 billion. But of course, in another moment of candor, the honorable member said a new government will not need that it will need less than that to correct the wrongs that have been committed by this government. Now, that was the academic and political excursion of the honorable member's speech. And like him, I am not going to be long. I certainly will not speak for as long as the honorable member did. But on behalf of Barbadians, I want to ask the basic question. Is it not intended that when you borrow money, it should result in growth? Is it not intended that when you borrow money, that you should invest that money in the economy and grow the economy, and not only grow the economy, but grow the economy for the benefit of Barbadians? Now, we hear the macroeconomic analyses and reports as to a growing economy. Let us introduce Barbadians to aspects of this growing economy. And let us introduce Barbadians to the realities of this economy that the government says it is growing. Now, we have argued before, and we will continue to argue, that much of what is reported as growth is really inflation, that the growth figures are distorted by inflation and not by production. Let us introduce Barbadians as to what is really happening in this economy. One very recent example. And I said this last week, and I'll bring it in here. And it was the truth there, and it is the truth here today, sir. And it relates to the management of this economy by this government. I am going to bring these issues home to the average Barbadian. This government, some short time ago, legislated for an increase in taxi fares. And to be honest, that was met within certain sections of Barbados by protests. You know, we wake up every morning and we travel through a society that is beset by many prejudices. And many times we as a population express opinions, and those opinions are much colored or weighted under by prejudices. If you don't like a sector, you criticize everything about that sector. And so when this government legislated for an increase in taxi fares, a lot of people quarrel. And some things were said that were not pleasant about the industry, about the drivers, about the person who occupied the industry. But, you know, when people work, whatever are your prejudices, they should be paid. And if prices in Barbados are increasing, there are people who work in Barbados who should enjoy an increase in pay. I mean, if you're going to give a consultant, an invisible consultant, $15,000 a month for doing nothing, I want to dare to say that there is no harm in giving a taxi driver an increase. He lives in Barbados, he's paying increased prices. And if he's paying increased prices, an increase in his income is due, particularly when he has not had an increase, a legislated increase, in many years. But, as I said, we come with our prejudices, and we come to these debates thinking that some people should not ever enjoy a raise in their standard of living. But let me not belabor the point, sir. Because implicit in what I'm saying here is a commendation of government in having increased those fares in spite of the protests. I don't always criticize. I will reserve some praise. So if the government puts on new shoes, it is not for me to criticize them for not cutting their toenails. The new shoes are there. I am not interested in uncut toenails within those shoes. And so the government came and legislated for that increase for taxi men. And presumably they were happy. Of course, they were also unhappy that the government reduced them to political minions, political pawns, by inviting them not to the tables of government, but to a karaoke and food eating festival called the Barbados Labour Party Annual Conference. Now, you don't do that to serious businessmen. You don't attempt to swell the numbers of a karaoke and food eating contest.
Honourable, this has to do anything with the matter before this chamber?
Yes,
Bill?
yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Karaoke?
Yes, I am speaking.
Just asking.
I am speaking.
Just asking.
I am speaking, sir.
I'm just asking if this has anything to do.
Yes, I make the point in all seriousness. I am speaking about legislated increase in taxi fares for taxi men. And then they had, and I'm talking here about loans, I'm talking about GDP, I'm talking about the justification for those increases, and I'm talking about a protest within the taxi sector when the government invited them, rather than invite them to the pristine premises of Bay Street, they invited them to Queen's Park in the midst of karaoke and wash pans of food. And they did not go. But not to digress, sir, I want to make the point that although they legislated the increase, although the government legislated the increase, this same government brought Uber into this country. And you know, sir, you're a well-traveled man, officially, that Uber is there to offer cheaper taxi fares. You know that, sir. In every country to which you go into the hotel, you go to the lobby, and they ask you, do you want one of our standard taxis, or are you going to experience Uber for its lower costs? Here's a government that claims that it cares about people in Barbados. And I'm speaking here about inconsistency. I'm speaking about production. I'm speaking about the gross domestic product. So here's a government legislating for increased taxi fares and still inconsistently inviting Uber into this country to undercut the same taxi fares.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raised on a point of order. The honourable member is misleading this chamber. I believe he's misleading himself at the same time as well. I believe I heard him to say on 2 occasions that this government invited Uber to this country. And I want to categorically deny that there is any truth in what the honourable member is stating. It is true that this administration, after some 15 years, ensured, because the last administration could not be bothered with the taxi drivers in this country, that they were given an increase which was commensurate with what is the state of play in the country. Because while they were so busy digging into their pockets and into the treasury to take what was there, this administration came to office to make sure that the taxi men in this country were also given a level playing field, Mr. Speaker. And on the second point of Uber, I want to make the point, we are a government that allows people to be able to enjoy Barbados, to be able to invest in Barbados, and we will never put ourselves in a position where we tell people that they cannot come to our shores to invest. All the time, all the work that we do in this government, we make sure that we create an environment for people to want to be here to invest. So I want to make it clear, we did not invite anybody. We are performing way above any of the standards that were set by the last administration. People want to come to Barbados to see what is here, not just for sun, sea, and sand, but also for investment in this country. And we have said repeatedly, it must be a case where anybody coming respects the stakeholders of this country, have the conversation with the stakeholders, and the stakeholders can determine whether they want to participate in the investment that is coming into the country. So I ask that the honourable members strike from the records any insinuation that we invited any players to this country, Uber or otherwise, because Barbados is a country where people are respecting and wanting to do business, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, ma'am.
I'm not going to be distracted by the last intervention. Uber could not have come to this country unless the government consented. Uber could not have come to this country unless the government had knowledge. Uber could not have come to this country unless the government consented. Maybe there's another point of order or clarification. If the people of Barbados are going to hear that Uber snuck into this country one night, in a manner akin to the return of Jesus Christ, well, let the government say that. But Uber came into this country with the full knowledge and consent of the government. Any points of order, please? None. I press on, sir. Let me press on, sir. I will not respond to pettiness. And so the point was being made that with knowledge and consent of this government, the large taxi sector has been undermined by the policies of this government. Has this government ceased to be sovereign? Can any corporation just come into Barbados now by happenstance? A few months ago, this government came here and cut off a part of the public service. CAIPO, Corporate Affairs and Intellectual Property Office, and named it something called Business Barbados to give somebody a job. Demoted the lawyers in there that used to be the registrars and put a CEO at the head of it. And during that debate, an honourable member on that side, who I will not identify now, came in here and used the language that I heard from the honourable member for Christchurch East Central today and said, oh, now that we have corporatized that government department, it will unleash trillions of dollars that are looking for investment. So the people of Barbados was told that to corporatize a government department would unleash trillions of dollars into Barbados. What has been the result? Uber. Uber. And created dissension, confusion, and a general state of uncertainty within an important sector called the taxi industry. A taxi industry that operates centrally within the tourism industry and domestically, because a lot of Barbadians take taxis. But this government, by its policy, unless the honourable member for St. Michael Southeast is to be taken at her word, are we now to believe that Uber walked into Barbados without the knowledge and consent of the government? Point of order, please. There's none. Let me press on, sir. And I was making the point that while the government speaks of growth, and the honourable member spoke of growth more than once in his delivery this morning, while the government speaks of growth, the point being made here now is that that alleged growth is not extending to Barbadians. And I cited the taxi industry as an example. That an industry which this government now seeks to grow by its implied invitation and acceptance of Uber is undermining the locals. So if there's to be growth in the taxi industry, those members who have traditionally and historically and for many years belonged to that industry are not going to be beneficiaries of that growth. In fact, their incomes are at risk. That is what the people of this country need to be told. It needs to be explained to the people of this country that any growth that is experienced in this economy is not filtering down to the average person in this country. I come to construction. On the issue of growth, oh yes, there has been an increase in construction. There has been growth in construction, but I refer to the facility in St. Lucie that ought to have been a hospital if the loan agreement between the European Investment Bank and the government had been honored. It would have been a hospital. So when the honourable member for Christchurch East Central comes and speaks of breached obligations in relation to loans, staring at him is the parish of St. Lucie, and I'm not talking about water. Staring at him is housing accommodation for foreign workers, where it ought to have been Barbadians who are ailing and Barbadians who are dying in the accident and emergency because they cannot get attention because there's a shortage of a medical facility in Barbados. A number of examples of growth so alleged, not filtering down to the average Barbadian. Not only the taxi men, but people who are sick will die because this government has refused, this government has breached an obligation that it made with a bank to borrow money and build a hospital. And the hospital is now accommodating migrant labor. This is no joke. Barbadians need an explanation for why this country is where it is. And this country is where it is because this government on a daily basis is breaching obligations. Not only obligations that it promised to the people of Barbados, but obligations that it promised to lenders. We are here today to talk about borrowing and lending. Need I go further? Need I go further? Need I go further and remark on the portion of the honourable member's speech which spoke about a promise to repair infrastructure that deals with water, and his speech is reaching the people of St. Lucie and St. Peter today. That this government comes today in the context of membership, of elevated membership within a Latin American bank, to promise this country that after 7 years of failure, after 7 years of dereliction from its duty to look after the interests of the people of this country, we are being told that from today, that from the passage of this legislation, attention will be given to water infrastructure. And the people of St. Lucie are hearing this. And the people of St. Lucie would have observed that this is a government, and I'm going to speak the truth. If it pains, take the pain. The people of this country has observed a government that has been extravagant, with the financial resources belonging not to the government, but to the people of this country. And I don't have to come here and talk about expensive travel and high per diems and a multitude of useless citizens called consultants. And that monstrosity up at Newton, which has been abandoned. The giant chicken pen next to Chickmount. Part of the $70 million estimated that this government has spent. Wastage. Where's the growth? There's growth. Well, where is the average Barbadian in relation to that growth? And after 7 years, this government is now asking for a new beginning. This government is asking this country to endorse elevated membership within the Latin American Bank. We support it. It is progressive. But the condemnation is for a government that has failed the people of this country financially. That is the condemnation. Look around Barbados, Your Honor. And the honorable member promises improved infrastructure in education. Just last week, the little children from Deacons Road were expelled from school because this government cannot pay basic attention to the physical infrastructure of schools in this country. We had some little second formers from Hildeskeen. It's Hildeskeen. I think that's the school. In here this morning.
Ronald Walters. Ronald Walters.
Ronald Weeks.
Ronald Weeks, not Elder Skeen.
Oh, you're getting confused with the Deacons Road thing. Well, he's going to be the next representative down there. You are right. Yes, you are right, sir. I've got to be sure.
I didn't say Ryan Walters, you know, my friend.
You say Walters?
I just said Ryan. I did not say Ryan Walters, honorable member.
But he's going to be the next representative.
No, but I didn't say that. Those words will not come from my mouth, sir.
I heard Walters.
Yeah, but you didn't hear Ryan. You have heard Ronald Weeks. But you didn't hear
Weeks.
But you didn't hear Ryan Walters.
Oh, you say Ronald Walters.
That would probably come from your mouth. Because that's associated with Deacons Road, so that would come from your mouth. That's expected.
Yes. And we were making the point that basic facilities in education every September, the little children in this country are unsure as to whether they're going to school. And that is not politicking. That is a fact. That Barbadians cannot now understand why is it that basic matters of attention to fundamental issues in education, a place to sit, a place to learn, a place to be with each other, a place to be taught, that the children of this country cannot be sure in September that they're going into a school. And it has now become October as well. That when they believe that they're settled in, they're expelled from the school, whether for 2 days or a week, they're expelled. And I use the word expelled. And I'm not digressing, Your Honor, because the honorable member for Christchurch East Central said that they're here to improve the infrastructure in education. So I am following the honorable member's lead. And I believe he mentioned health as well. I believe the honorable member mentioned health. And we came in here, this government came in here. When I say we, I mean we parliamentarians. But I'm outnumbered. And they came in here recently to speak of an improvement to the health sector that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital would be expanded. And the people of Barbados, the good people of Barbados had been waiting for the expansion, not only to the southeast or to the east, but they would have appreciated it to the west as well, down Gemmett's Lane, that historically used to house the old hospital. But alas, Your Honor, those precious lands that ought to have been reserved for infrastructural expansion and improvement in the health sector have been alienated to a bank. And I am not going to come in here and be denied the opportunity by this government to repeat this. It is an alienation, and it is an alienation so grievous that the people of Barbados are asking us in the opposition if that transaction can be reversed. And I'm going to give an answer very soon, not today. Not today, but I'm going to give an answer very soon. That those lands could have accommodated expansion of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It is separated only by a road, just as the new expansion is separated only by a road. And it will be joined to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, according to this government's plans, by an overpass between the present hospital and those alienated lands at Gemmett's Lane would have been a cheaper and more convenient overpass. But this government, by its policies, have alienated those lands to a bank. And today we're here about another bank. And today, the bank we're here to talk about, I concede, and I say this through you, sir, to the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, is genuinely a development bank. And I say that through you, sir, to the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, that the bank of which he speaks today is genuinely a development bank akin to the Caribbean Development Bank. And by contrast, when this country was told that the other bank to whom those lands have been alienated was a development bank akin to the Caribbean Development Bank, that was not true. It is a private for-profit bank whose main aim, objective, motive is profit. Development banks are not there primarily for profit. The paramount purpose is that of development, mutual development. And in this case today, we have heard an honest delivery pertaining to what is the Latin American bank conceptually, that it is a bank of member countries committed to development, whose primary purpose is not profit. The primary purpose of the bank to whom the lands have been alienated at Gemmett's Lane is not development, it is profit. And therefore, when you read upon the bank, they speak less of development and more of profit. Diplomatic immunities and privileges under this legislation, as signed on to by a previous Minister of Foreign Affairs, then Senator Maxine McLean, extended those privileges, diplomatic privileges and immunities properly to the Latin American Bank. Properly, I say, to the Latin American Bank. This government has extended similar privileges and immunities improperly. I have to tell the truth in here, improperly, to the bank to whom the lands at Gemmett's Lane have been alienated. Is it permanent? The people of Barbados are asking the question, is it permanent? Can they sit comfortably with that unwholesome deal made between this government and the bank. I issue no threats, but I've heard the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central anticipate that there could be a new government. And I've congratulated him for that Freudian assertion. He may well be right. And this is not hubris, but the people of Barbados are not happy. And this is not politicking. This is the reality. And just this morning I read in the media, and we are still on development of this country. We read in the media again that that courageous businessman who spoke of the suffering of too many people in this country and spoke of that recently has now come out again and spoken as to the derelict nature of our main street in what used to be a proud and shining city. He lamented that these Independence and Christmas celebrations and festivities and adornments will have a blot on their faces because our main street has gone into degeneration. 7 years later, 7 years later, there has been no attention to urban development and urban renewal in this country. Where's the development? This government does not understand the meaning of the word development. Development is not always about growth. Development often relates itself to improvement. And improvement does not have to be growth in order to be called development. And maybe that's a basic lesson that this government does not understand. But we understand it. And a time will come, and hopefully it will come soon, when this country will relieve the government of the job that was given to it in 2018. Hopefully that time will come, and anybody that is offended, anybody on the other side that is offended, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But mine is a voice in defense of what must be right in this country. And that this is no game. This is no game. This is a country in which too many people are suffering. This is a country in which too much money has been borrowed, and those monies have not been dedicated to the projects for which they were borrowed. That is a serious charge against the government. How do you plead government? The evidence is mounting against this government that many borrowed monies have been abused where they have been identified, and many borrowed monies have disappeared from public view. I cited the hospital at North Point. I cited the Comey loan, and there are others. And I accuse this government of pretty talk. The biggest industry in this country is the industry of pretty talk, and the government is the chief industrialist. Lot of pretty talk. How do you plead government? Where are those borrowed monies? And then we come to taxation. We heard a charge this morning by the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central as to the last government's policy on taxation. The Honourable Member said today that all the last government was doing was taxing. And I could not believe that a technocrat whom I admire was going to say that to the people of Barbados. That at this juncture of our economic, political, and social history and financial history, this generation of Barbadians now alive, is the most taxed ever in the history of this country. And the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central comes in here today and criticizes the last administration for taxation and overtaxation. The facts are there. The facts are there. And I will not still my voice on these issues. I will not be intimidated by numbers. I come armed with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this government will hear it, because I'm not alone in making these charges. The people of this country are feeling it. The people of this country are feeling the burden of overtaxation. The people of this country are feeling the burden of loans to which this government commits those little children who were present up there this morning. There are people in this government today, who will bear no responsibility for the repayment of these loans. And I said, this government, there are people in this house right now, members of this house right now, who will bear no personal responsibility for the repayment of those loans. I say welcome to the students of the Renner-Weeks Primary School, but I say that welcome with reservation that those darling little children would have come here this morning and seen a government commit them to the repayment of loans when they start to work at the age of 18 or 20 or 22. So this government can go on its borrowing spree. And the honourable member for Christchurch East Central can speak as soberly as technocrats always do. And I have told him I admire his technocracy. I admire his discourses. I really do, on technocratic matters. But when the honourable member becomes political, my admiration diminishes, it dims. The light of my admiration dims. It does, you know, it really does. And I want to quote a few more of the statements made by the honourable member for Christchurch East Central. And he did make the observation, the honourable member did make the observation that I seem to be making notes. And therefore, he literally turned his body to me and addressed me, and I'm a very good audience. I listen and I learn. I will go to the salient portions of what I recorded the honourable member to have said. And I quote, "In the aftermath of disasters, our size admits of constraints." And I recall the honourable member to have said that in the larger countries after disaster, earthquake, etc., they can easily airlift and relocate people. And the honourable member stated that our constraint is that people literally have nowhere to go. And it is as if the landmass and the society, this is not the honourable member now, this is me. I'm saying that the population and the landmass occupied by that population becomes something of an economy of scale. And being an economy of scale, maybe the effort to rebuild, one, is necessary, and two, it is possible. We are aware that, and I say this to the honourable member, in what I would call academic and intellectual exchange, that in the bigger countries to which he referred, that evacuation may sometimes result in abandonment of a physical space. We don't have the luxury of abandonment, but abandonment, I say to the honourable member, represents a loss. But here in the Caribbean, in these islands, we turn that loss into a gain when we rebuild, rehabilitate, improve, and return people literally to the spaces that they had occupied before the disaster. So it is not necessarily an advantage given to the larger countries, but our literal space, our economy of scale, gives us something of an advantage if and when we attempt to rebuild. That's just something I want to say to the honourable member for his own consideration, because as I've told him, as a technocrat, I do admire and respect his contributions. And that is one point that I would wish to commend to the honourable member for Christchurch East Central. But then, towards the end of his speech, he goes on, the honourable member goes on to say, we will see growth in the economy. Now, that is futuristic. That is the language of promise. We will see growth in the economy. As a result of joining this bank, as a result of taking additional loans, the honourable member is quoted to have said, we will see growth in the economy, the language of promise, the language of a future set of circumstances. I repeat that this government has borrowed billions of dollars between 2018 and 2025, and the growth upon which they report is not reaching the average Barbadian. Our first point of contention is that it is not real growth, that it is inflationary. And if it is growth, the average Barbadian can see for whom that growth is reserved. Migrant labor, foreign companies. And we cited the case of Uber, which did not sneak into Barbados in the middle of the night. But the honourable member promises growth. I have previously reminded this government that the biblical story of famine and plenty refers to a state in which you have plenty first. But this government, in its first 7 years, by its language of concession, by its language of promise, is impliedly saying to the people that they now promise plenty. So they have reversed the biblical story in which you have plenty and then famine. The honourable member for Christchurch East Central has confessed to the people of this country that the first 7 years has been that of famine. And he is now pleading with the people of Barbados to give this government a chance to implement plenty. Too late. It's too late. What has this government done in the last 7 years? What has this government done in the last 7 years except to preside over wastage and legislative bungling? If the legislative bungling is to be any example as to this government's performance, look at the last year from the cybercrime bill and come right down to November the 30th this year, which this government had been calling Republic Day. Even at that level, Your Honor, this government cannot get it right. Even at that level, this government cannot get it right. This government some 4 years ago told the people of Barbados, and I'm saying this by way of example, Your Honor, permit this. Never shall there be a day on which November the 30th shall not be known as Independence Day. That promise was
Honourable member, this is relevant to loans.
I did ask for your special permission.
There's no special permission being granted, Honourable member. There's no special, it has to be relevant and pertinent.
As Your Honor
and it is not pertinent nor relevant.
As Your Honor pleases, sir. As Your Honor pleases. I will never disobey you, sir. But the point being made was that even in terms of its legislation, this government cannot get it right. So if this government cannot get it right in terms of its legislation, I say to you that that reflects government's economic policy. That government cannot get it right in terms of its economic policy. In terms of its borrowing, no Barbadian alive in this country is comfortable with the state of the borrowing of this government. Not one. Perhaps except 28 people. And Your Honor, it is fit and proper that I should exclude two of us here. Since the Speaker is impartial. He's not yet independent, but he's impartial. And maybe 28 people in this country believe, that government's economic policy has filtered down to the average man. And I have pointed out within the construction sector where it has not. I have pointed out in the taxi sector where it has not. And I will point out within the wider economy where government's economic policy, financial and fiscal policy is denying the average Barbadian a comfortable visit to the supermarket or the corner shop in the village. Everything is expensive and prohibitively expensive, and there are people in the supermarket aisles who are asking other citizens to assist them, to walk with them to the cash register, and to help them to pay their bills if any of the 28 deny that that is the truth. Perhaps they themselves need to visit the supermarkets. So that at every level of this government's economic policy, there's failure. And there's not failure for a fat and expensive government that continues to fly high, literally, in private jets, while the average Barbadian is experiencing hardship. So don't worry about these pretty words. To move from grade C membership to grade A in the Latin American Bank will not improve the prospects of the average Barbadian unless the government commits those new loans to genuine development of the people. Yes, I'm going to shout. I'm going to shout. I know you're uncomfortable. I know the government is uncomfortable at its failure. I intend to make them doubly uncomfortable by giving them some pain. Maybe I would have laughed if I had heard, because I do have a good sense of humor, but I did not hear. I genuinely did not hear. The honourable member can rise to her feet and repeat it. I'm going to shout the truth. I quote the honourable member again: almost inevitably, whenever the DLP government comes to office, the country has to go to the IMF. And this is where Freud came to life within the honourable member. He said, you will have options when you come to government. The honourable member said to us, we are going to have options. We are grateful, you know. We are grateful. You have now, the honourable member for Christchurch East Central has now given a prescription to the incoming government. And we are grateful to him if that is his form of application to be a part of that new government. I so admire his technocratic skills that there may be a place reserved for you in the Commonwealth. Shakespeare. We are giving Barbados options. He says, we are giving Barbados options. And then, as I said earlier, he said, we have a lot of investing to do in relation to education. Look, tell the people of Barbados what has happened to this government's investment in education for the last 7 years. What has been happening? What has been happening? Are the people of this country to believe that the government has had no access to public funds to build and or repair schools in this country? Have they built any though? They've gone quiet. They've gone quiet. Has this government built a new school in the last 7 years? Have those little, the honourable member says yes. Well, rise on a point of order, my friend. Rise up. Rise up.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, the honourable member, if he ventures anywhere in Bay Street, will notice the new facility, Oceana, that has been built by this government, certainly within the last year, and is operational. So when he asks whether or not the government has built a new school, the answer is a resounding yes.
The people of Barbados have heard today that there's a primary school called the Oceana Primary School on Bay Street. I asked, turn off your microphone, please. I asked whether this government has built any new schools. And I invited the honourable member to stand and to answer the question. And he is such a delightfully polite man, separate and apart from many who gather around him, of far less competence than he is. And he's an honest man. And constrained to rise to his feet, he admits that not a new school has been built, but that some facility called the Oceana Facility for Children has been built. Well, I saw them building it, and I saw a lot of money being spent there. And the children of the Renowit School wish that some had been spent there. The people in Deacon's Primary School wish that some had been spent there. The children up by the Black Mangala, who the cowitch up there eating every day, wish that some had been spent there. And I go back to my original assertion that this government in the last 7 years has done no substantial work to the educational plant in this country. That not enough resources have been spent on the education of children in this country. And the honourable member has admitted that no monies have been spent on the existing educational plant. And if the honourable member seeks to take credit on behalf of this government for Oceana, well, please tell the people what Oceana is all about on the next occasion that the honourable member has the opportunity. But over the last 7 years, nothing has been done for the educational plant in this country. I will not be distracted. They can grumble as much as they want. Failure is a terrible thing. 7 years of famine. 7 years of loans. Show the people of Barbados where those loans have gone. This is a government that must be ashamed. Show the people of Barbados where those loans have gone. And now, this government comes to the people of Barbados hoping to define our economic status by something called debt to GDP ratio. The amount of debt contrasted against gross domestic product. And you know, this has been a government of borrowing. And this has been a government telling the people of Barbados that they are improving the debt to GDP ratio. Is this government going to deny that it is the government that has borrowed the most over a 7-year period, ever? in the history of Barbados, even taking inflation into account. I'm going to be fair to them. Taking inflation into account, this government has borrowed more money than any other government over a 7-year period of famine. Where have those monies gone, government? And I'm going to repeat this so that this discussion reaches the people in Barbados, from the highest to the lowest. Ask the average Barbadian if his financial lot has improved over the last 7 years. Ask him. Ask him about the cost of living. Ask her about the cost of living. Ask him and her about the price of housing, where several housing developments are promised to low-income people. How many of the ongoing or recently completed projects have been within the financial reach of working-class people? Is this government not ashamed? Or will this government continue to beat its chest with statistics, fancy statistics which do not relate to the plight of the average man and the average woman and the child in Barbados? So those noises that you're hearing, sir, are noises attempted to drown out the truth, but the truth will be placed firmly on their doorstep. And when they open the door, not only will they find the truth, but they will find the average man and woman who will say, "What have you done for me lately, government? What have you done lately, government, apart from parade statistics and pretty speeches all through this parliament and all across the public life of Barbados? While even businessmen are now, wealthy businessmen, mind you, are accusing this government of failure, are accusing this government of having presided over urban degeneration and urban decay in Barbados. And those same businessmen are accusing this government through its welfare services of having neglected poor people in this country. Somebody must speak for poor people. Somebody must speak for poor people. It is not fashionable to speak for poor people, often not fashionable. It is a most unglamorous discussion. But in terms of housing and cost of living and crime, it is the poor that is suffering in this country, sir. And it is the poor that is neglected unless they want to embrace them with a fete or a football match.
I remember we were speaking about a loan.
Yes, a loan.
In the bank. Just
And
remember
I'm
that.
talking about the...
Just remember that.
Yes, I'm obliged to you, sir. And I am saying the general theme is that the many loans and the many memberships of financial and lending agencies have not alleviated the state of poverty in Barbados. Although we are getting all these loans, we may be in the country. Although this government is committing the people of Barbados to all these loans, wither the poor. Wither the poor. At the hands of a government that claims that it cares, wither the poor. What is happening to them? Is there any voice in this government on behalf of the poor except that of the Honourable Member for Christchurch West? And I'm an honest man who stood up in here 4 or 5 years ago and became the voice for an increase in the minimum pay. And I credited him for that. I don't come in here to criticize everything. I don't come in here to castigate everyone. But I credited the Honourable Member for Christchurch West for having championed the cause of an increase in the minimum wage while the Honourable Member for St. Peter was silent. I don't know if they're both present today. When they interrupted me, I see them all as one gang of one, and I say that in a nice way, one group. Why did I say gang? I'm sorry. I see them all as one group of hecklers. So often I don't know which one is present. I don't know if the honorable member for St. Peter is present today, but he failed this country.
Honourable member is speaking on a loan.
Yes. Let us come back to the loan.
You should never vary from it, sir.
These are tangents of the loan. Yes, sir.
They're separate and distinct. They're not tangential at all. They don't touch and concern. They must touch and concern.
Yes, and you know I always abide by your rulings. I know you're hearing the honorable member for St. Thomas. She's going home, you see?
That is your friend, honourable member. I have oftentimes said it to you. That is your comrade. That is your friend. You speak highly of her in this honourable chamber. You speak glowingly of her, honourable member for Christchurch South. That is your friend.
Sir, if you continue along that trajectory, she's going to think that you're jealous.
So I am correct then.
But her swan song, the honorable member's swan song, is being sung from the back bench. I commiserated when she was dismissed from the ministry. If you say she's my friend, I really was sad when she was dismissed. There's so many dismissals in here that make me sad. Yeah.
Honourable, stick to the relevant.
Yeah. So many dismissals that make me sad. And there's some pending, you know. I predicted it here last year that the honourable member for St. George was going to be dismissed.
Honourable members, please speak to the bill before this honourable chamber.
Another one coming though, sir. And so, Your Honor, while we do not oppose the membership of the bank, it is progressive. Let the honourable member for Christchurch East Central hear me say that the elevated membership within the Latin American Bank is a progressive move. And it is because we speak the truth and we speak objective truths that we will applaud his advice to the government that it should improve the membership of the Latin American Bank. We do say that. But what we want the government to do, apart from the noble intent of the honourable member for Christchurch East Central, we want the government to embrace the interests of the average man, and that has been the theme. It isn't that we have been digressing, Your Honour. The theme has been that these loans must redound to the benefit of Barbadians, and that government's financial policy should embrace the interests of the average Barbadian. And financial policy is related to loans, because much of this country's wealth has been derived from loans. That's the point, sir. And when the government comes and boasts as to a healthy foreign exchange position, that is not a statement as to anything that the government has achieved. All the government has achieved is a successful borrowing campaign. And since I have committed to telling the truth, I am now going to ask this government on behalf of the people of Barbados. And if this is not true, let them say it is not true. That every loan that this government is taking is enriching a small cadre of Barbadians by way of the payment of commissions. Any points of order, sir? I am saying that millions of dollars, yes, honourable members. I am saying I am supposed to remain silent on this, that while there are people in Barbados who can't have access to a proper meal, there is a small cadre of Barbadians benefiting from the payment of professional fees whenever this government takes a loan. And when they went on the road, what did they call it? The road tour, and borrowed $500 million US. I now have the evidence, or do I? Is there more? That a small cadre of persons, I was saying Barbadians, a small cadre of persons benefited from the payment of professional fees. And Barbadians need to know this. That while those little children who came here this morning are now committed to the repayment of these loans, there is a small cadre of persons who are being taken along to witness a document being signed, and they are given large professional fees for their ability to be present. Whether it's a commission or a fee for so-called advice given. When this government responds, as the honourable member responded to a direct question as to the construction of any new school in this country over the last 7 years, let the honourable member admit as to whether there is a small cadre of persons who are benefiting by professional fees and commissions on every loan that is taken. The massive loans taken have benefited some Barbadians. It is as true as John 3:16 and indeed the rest of the Christian Bible. Any points of order, please? Any points of order, please? Any points of order, please? And I'm going to ask the question again.
Honourable Member, please continue with the debate.
Yes, who the cap fits, let him
Member,
wear it.
Honourable Member, please continue.
Because when I talked about White Oak, that gentleman piped up.
Honourable Member, please continue as it relates to
They get very
the
worried.
debate.
I will, Your Honor. A certain gentleman gets very uneasy when we talk about White Oak. When we talk about the 27 million US dollars that this reckless and irresponsible government paid, certain people became very nervous and uncomfortable, and we know why they became nervous and uncomfortable. Because we know where some of it went. We know where some of it went. The people, you really think the people in Barbados believe that that 27 million, who is that talking? That $27 million, I thought we were hearing a confession. You really believe, sir?
Honourable Member, I thought you were, the debate before this house has nothing to do with White Oak.
Leave
Has
out,
nothing to do
right.
with White
Leave
Oak,
out-
nothing.
Leave out the
Nothing at
beneficiaries.
all.
Leave out the beneficiaries of the White Oak 27 million then, sir?
Honourable Member, I have spoken.
Yes. We will leave out the beneficiaries of White Oak. I tell y'all, don't heckle me here. All right. I told y'all, don't heckle me. You're going to force me to say some things. I have it. I have the information.
Honourable Member,
Talk to them, sir.
Honourable Member, I've asked you to speak on what is before this honourable chamber.
As we say in Barbados, they're frightened. They are afraid. The Attorney General knows that.
Honourable Member, you're transgressing. You're not even digressing, you're transgressing your time. You are, yes, you are.
I'm finishing just
yes, because
I'm finishing just
you're not
now.
speaking
No.
on what is before the chamber.
I am going to punish them for interrupting me. And I'm going to punish them by saying to you, sir, that in the law of equity, there's something called tracing. Tracing! Keep quiet. And there is a principle in equity called tracing.
Honourable Member, we are speaking as it relates to CAF.
The loan.
Honourable,
the loan.
this has nothing to do with
Yes.
equity.
Yes.
Honourable Member, this has nothing to do with equity and tracing. Please speak to what is before the chamber.
And I am saying, sir, that while we support, and we do support the membership of the Latin American Bank, we are cautioning this government not to repeat, and I'm going to use your word, past transgression, in which hefty loans are benefiting a few people by way of the payment of commissions. And if I trace where those funds have gone, As with the European Investment Bank, they have not gone to St. Lucie. As with the other one, I'm not going to repeat it again, sir. Nobody knows where the 27 million has gone. The people don't know. But what has them afraid, sir?
Honourable member, you're speaking to
I'm addressing you, sir.
to
I'm
your
not
member.
hearing a word he said.
Honourable member, are you speaking to the member for
I'm not
St.
hearing
James
a
Central?
word. Call his title, sir.
Are you speaking to him? You
No,
can't be speaking to
I'm
him.
speaking to you, sir.
So please.
I'm speaking to you, sir. And the people of Barbados will learn that these loans and these relationships are enriching a few unjustly. Who the cap fits? Let him wear it. Who is wearing the expensive cap? Let it adorn his head, or her head, as the case may be. As the case may be, and that is the caution that this opposition must issue in relation to these large loans. Don't heckle me. Don't do it. Because I will respond with certain truths that will uproot this reckless government. You hearing me, sir? You hearing me, sir? Are you hearing him? And Your Honor, I know you're hearing me. And I ask you not to be uncomfortable, sir. And to be allowed theater, yes, theater. Because it is theatrical to borrow money, presumably for the benefit of a country, and the country cannot benefit from it. That is theater. Go and build another theater like what y'all built up Newton. An overgrown foul pain. An overgrown foul pain that y'all got up there, and you want to know who got the contract, sir?
Honourable member, this has nothing at all to do with the debate in relation to what the Honourable for Christchurch Central piloted this morning.
As you please, sir.
Please.
As you please, sir. Save them. Save them, sir. And so, permit me to close, sir. Permit me, I want your permission now and your protection. For me to close by saying that today's amendment is to build on a platform which was well established in 2014, 2015, and that it is a noble effort to upgrade the membership from C to A. That is noble. That is commendable. Except that we must issue the caution to the government to manage its loans responsibly and to ensure that this government honors the obligation, its obligation, not only to the lender, but to the people of Barbados, that the loans should go where they agreed to carry them. And the people of this country cannot be satisfied that those loans have reached their destination. And we have pointed out only 2 or 3 circumstances in which this government has breached its obligation to the lender and also breached its obligation to the people of Barbados. And it is upon that basis that this government receives the condemnation that it receives today. Let them not misunderstand the argument we make. And permit me to commend the signatories to the original agreement of immunities and exemptions. Commit me to commend them, Enrique Garcia at the time, Senator Maxine McLean at the time. This government, in recognizing that that document was impeccably drafted, has not disturbed any of its content. It has not disturbed any of its content. But what the government has come today to do is to join the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean by this act by this bill dated 2025, and there's no opposition to the joining of that bank. And you need not hear me repeat the reservations that made the other side uncomfortable, and I'm not going to repeat them. But every time they come to this Parliament with matters of loans and finance, I am going to remind this government of its sins. And this government has been a transgressor in terms of its management of loans. The evidence is there, sir. Please accept the foregoing as today's submissions, Your Honor. I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. Joseph. 20 minutes, please.
So, Speaker, I beg to move that we do adjourn for lunch break, suspend, and we come back at 2:30.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.